Hello, everyone. It is Carrie, and I am here live for you for Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent. And it is a true honor and pleasure to introduce my guest this evening. She is the tally to my man Rika in our mini games, except she wins, and she's like, it's like if it's ride or die, I die and she rides. She was our winner. R.I.P. me at Final Five. Keisha, tell the people about yourself. Whatever you want them to know.
Hey people, I'm Keisha. I live in Chicago. I am currently an attorney and a knitter and crocheter. I do like to play minis and elimination games, and we are ride or die. And I want to point out that in our last one together, Carrie did last longer than me. So sometimes I die first.
Only because of like the idol that you gave me. So it's fine. It's fine. We are here to talk about episodes 5 and 6 of the Circle UK. And I am just loving this season. So far, what are you thinking of it? How are you feeling about it?
I love it. I love the circle. I like this season. I like a lot of the characters. I am looking for a little bit more action. I feel like this last episode started getting into some of the action where people started kind of telling what they thought about each other and made it a little bit more interesting and more fun.
I agree. I felt like it got a little repetitive in the OG versus clone tally part a bit. I think they could have shrunk that by a few minutes, but otherwise, I am so happy with the cast that we have, the characters. I think there's some people that are crushing it, so I'm really excited to talk about these 2 episodes. We start off episode 5 with an amazing post-blocking meeting where Orange Tally, aka Yolanda, goes to meet Blue Tally. When we were left with that cliffhanger and you saw their facial expressions, how did you think it was going to go in terms of their meeting? Did you think it was going to be like hostile, like they'd come out of it best friends? Like, what do you think?
Well, in watching The Circle and having watched like every UK and US episode, I'm like, in general, I was like, I know it's going to end up being okay, but Blue Tally was fired up more than anybody I've seen be fired up about possibly meeting someone. And so I was just like, is she going to stay fired up? But I assumed based on Orange Tally's personality, because I knew she wasn't coming with aggression or hostility, that they were going to be fine. Like if they both were fired up for some reason to be different, but like Orange Tally was totally coming in peace, you know? And so I knew that once she could explain herself, it was going to be fine.
Did you think that Blue Tally's emotion and aggression were valid, or did you think she was being a little dramatic?
I think she's being dramatic. I totally understood like the first moment she was like, oh my God, why is somebody doing this to me? Like I understood it then, but over time she obviously should have figured out that this is part of the game. Like this was built into the game. I need to like just sell who I am. I thought that her anger part of it could have come down. I got the part of like her wanting to sell herself and like make sure people knew who she was. So I understood like that internal frustration of like, of course I know who I am. Why don't you guys know me? That part I understood, especially the initial shock. Like absolutely the initial shock understood. But after a while I was like, okay, girl, I'm over it. Like calm down.
Yeah, I think I would have been angrier than her, to be honest. Like at least in my to myself in my apartment, I probably would have tried to keep it a little bit more low key in the chats, but I would have made like when Yolanda went back to watch it, if I was Tally, she would hate me. Like she would be like, wow, you said some messed up shit about me. I would 100% be like, I would be cursing out like her family, anyone she's ever met, like the grocery store she goes to. I'd be so mad.
And I would take it as a compliment. I would totally be like, flattery. I mean, you know, imitation is the first form of flattery. So I'd be like, oh my gosh, this girl wants to be me. She thought I was the best person in the circle. Bring it on. Of course, you're not me, but let's go. Like, but that's my personality, right?
Yeah.
I would have been shocked too originally, but then I would have been like, let's go. Like, you can't be me. So, but nice for trying, you know?
That's true. It's a good perspective to take on it. A much healthier one than I would
I'm also
have.
not there. So I was there
Yeah.
my throw.
Yeah, from here in my computer chair where I watch all the episodes, I was angry. So I can imagine what I would have been like in real life.
Especially when it's like you could get blocked because of it.
Yeah.
In my defensive part, I might be a little different. Be like, girl, you get me kicked out of this circle.
I will kick you out of real life. Like that's what it comes down
room
to.
and it's over. Like if I was the one that got blocked and I was the real person, now that might be a different situation.
Security, I'm gonna need you to escort me to this room because you're probably gonna have to escort me right out.
Right, because I'm like, I'll tell you what room I'm going to.
So as we mentioned, it was a much nicer meeting than maybe we would have assumed based off of Blue Tally's aggression, anger, frustration with the whole situation. We get some information out of this meeting. First of all, they're both shocked that it's each other. And Yolanda and Tally both think Saeed is a catfish. I love when they come together and they talk game versus like, oh my God, it's so nice to meet you. Like the last blocking when Penny came in and talked to Saeed, there was no exchange of information. But to be fair, the two people that played Penny had the absolute wrong read on the game. I watched their like reveal where they got to see who people were and were not, and everyone they thought was a catfish was not, and everyone that wasn't, like they had the exact wrong read on everyone. So it's probably a good thing there was no information exchange there. But Yolanda and Tally both think Saeed's a catfish, and Tally has him pegged as like a 20-ish something guy. Like she has it, but we haven't heard that in any other place in the show.
Yeah, I agree. I love it when they meet because you really do. Because then people, I feel like, let their guards down and they really are just like, you're leaving, so I can tell you whatever. And they kind of let it all out, right? And I think they're a lot more relaxed. So they're like, because they want the insight from them too. And so it's really great. And I love just being able to see Tally a little bit more of her personality in that moment, like the real Tally. Just being able to see her personality. And I feel like also having Yolanda there playing Tally or playing Orange Tally also brought out more of the real Tally's personality during that whole sequence while they were doing both in the circle, because you really didn't know much about Tally before that, which is one of the reasons why she chose her. So I really enjoyed that because it did bring out a little bit more of her.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I do think Tally benefited from the whole situation regardless of how frustrating it was.
Yeah.
Other things that came up in their conversation, Tally thinks Manrika is real, which we could have told. And Tally also thinks that Gemma might be a catfish because she's being a people pleaser. And she even said to Yolanda's face, which I appreciate the audacity in this. She was like, it's kind of like what you were doing where you were just like going along with people. I was like, okay, like go on, tell her. But the best part of this whole meeting to me, and this type of thing drives me nuts. So when I say the best part, I actually mean like humorous in a are you serious type of way, is Yolanda out here giving Tally advice about a game that she's been blocked from twice.
Yeah.
Like, what? You were the last person I want advice from.
I feel like it's just some people's general nature to feel like they want to be helpful, right? They just being helpful. But yeah, it's like your method didn't work. And Tally's playing herself. Like she's being herself. She's not trying to be a catfish. So yeah.
I also think that if I was Tally, I would take everything she said and probably just try to do the opposite. It's like, okay, you said A, B, and C. Well, I'm doing X, Y, and Z because you tried A, B, and C twice and you are 0 for 2. So thanks for like the anti-advice, if you will.
But what do you think? I think it's great that Tally does have a good read. And that seemed to like solidify her bond with Manrika. But are you surprised with how the votes went? Because
in terms of the blocking?
Yeah, because I'm like, people should have seen that pair and maybe try to break them up.
So I was so caught up in like the emotion of OG Tally that it didn't even cross my mind to be strategic about it until the host made a comment where she's like, who's the real one, who's the fake one, like who's the one worth keeping around or something like that, where it's like, oh shit, this is a perfect opportunity to take out the better player, whether or not it's real Tally, fake Tally, or whoever. That it didn't even cross my mind to like right beforehand. So I can see like why people didn't do it, because I think you show your cards very early if you are being strategic in that point. Because someone came in and purposely is fucking with Tally. Like, they chose her to clone her. And if you get it wrong, and you do it on purpose and it comes to light that it's on purpose, I think you're showing, like, I am a super game player, versus where you try to, like, hide behind the social connections in your gameplay in the circle. So I think that's why it was better to, like, go for the real one. Also, there's this like huge, like, I'm a catfish hunter, I'm the best at finding catfish thing this season, that I think that if it comes out you purposely did that, I think you're just escalating yourself up the list to get blocked.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I feel like there was a way to disguise it, like for the guys, right? I feel like a Manrika couldn't do it because she was so sold on which one was which. And so I think the ones who had already staked their claim on which one was real, they couldn't do it. But the guys hadn't done that for the most part, right? They were like on the fence. So I think it would have been a great opportunity for the guys to just be like, oh, we all thought Orange Charlie was real. Oops. And played it up. Like they could have they had the votes. And I think they totally could have done it. But again, it's like you said, it depends on which way they want to go. If their whole goal is, no, we want to get out the catfishes. Like we want them gone. But since some of the guys, quote unquote, guys are actually catfishes themselves, that doesn't serve their interests either.
Right.
And so it also goes against their interests. If they think Tally is genuine, if they think Manrico is genuine, which they do, it makes way more sense to get rid of a real player and there themselves. But that's just me, because my thing is, who said the circle winner has to always be a real player?
Andy did in his intro. Andy said he would be absolutely disgusted if there was a catfish.
Right. No, I know that. I'm just saying the rules don't say that.
Right, exactly.
There's like this idea, like of on the circle when people come in of like, yeah, the catfish has to go. But who said? The whole point is like that's the most influential, whatever. Like who's likable, whether it's you or your character, which we've seen because we know a lot of times actually the catfish has one. And so it's just like, stop trying to be a catfish finder. Just figure out who you like.
I can also see them wanting to stay on Manrika's good side with their votes. You know what I mean? Because I think a vote against Blue Tally could be seen, at least to Manrika, as a vote against Manrika, because she was so adamant that Blue Tally was the real one, that if you're also trying to navigate that relationship with Manrika, I think that could have also been a good reason to stick with Blue Tally.
And I feel like that's kind of what ended up happening, right? I think that was why the votes went the way they did.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Vithin was playing strategically, and I think Billy was just wrong.
Oh, no, I think Billy and Vithin, because they're together, I think they both are strategic together.
You think so? I don't.
Yeah. Billy's just messy, and Vithin is strategic.
Billy is a child, and Vithin is strategic.
Messy Billy.
He's funny though. I've gained an appreciation for him. When I first
love him.
When I first saw him, I was like, oh, here we go. Especially because like I work at a summer camp and we like hire 19-year-old white dudes from England. Like it's going out of style. So I'm like, this is gonna be like one of my camp workers. And to be fair, he is, but he's also funny enough to be on TV. So like I'm okay with him.
Oh my gosh, I love him and I love Vithin. I love their friendship together. Like they are awesome to me. They're just fun. I don't know why. They're just funny.
Yeah, I think that there's so many good relationships in this show already, which is crazy. Like the way that they've managed to pair or make pairs. I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
So we have more people entering the circle now. We have Scott, who pre-show I mentioned Scott and we were like, who? He is a 30-year-old actor from Manchester and he is playing his grandmother, Dorothy Wilde, who is an 85-year-old woman. What do you think about this decision coming in as your 85-year-old grandmother?
Oh my God. Okay, so Nan. If Nan was there, I think I would love it because Nan would probably be a lot more fun than Scott is playing Nan. Scott himself, I think, would be a hoot playing himself. Like, he is hilarious. So, like, why not play yourself? I feel like sometimes both Saeed and Scott, and even the dad and daughter, when they were playing Penny, people who play perceived old people really like play up this boring lifestyle. And I'm like, you realize people who are older had a life and know how to do things. Like with Nan, when she was like, oh my God, I've never had a shot. Can you show me? No, Nan could like, girls, let me tell you how to take these shots. I've done it for years. And I can tell you, like,
sorry, there's no way you live in England and haven't done a shot. Like
drinking, or don't know about drinking alcohol. Like Nan had a life. If she's 80, she's had a life. She's lived. She could tell those girls how to party. You can get in that way. Like, don't make Nan boring. Nan is not boring. Like, he is not doing his grandma justice. He just doesn't know because Nan probably has not told him because he's the lovely little grandchild. But he don't know what Nan has done, and he's not doing her justice. Is what I think.
I think that's such a good point. I do think that there is this unnecessary caution for playing the older people in this like almost pristine way. Like, I am not just an adult, but I am an older adult than you. Therefore, I have never done anything wrong. An emoji and what is that little picture? Like all these types of things that I mean. My mom turns 60 in a couple weeks, and that bitch goes out there and does shots and does karaoke and hangs out with my 28-year-old brother and all. My brother's friends call my mom and are like, hey, do you want some drinking? They don't even call him. Like, so the fact that I know that my mom is about to be 60 and does that, like, we need to reshape. We need some like catfish training if we've got people coming in playing old people. You got to be better. You have to.
Get rid of the stereotype of this idea that every person who is perceived to be old, because I say that because they keep calling them old. When I'm like, because you're 60 doesn't make you old. You are wiser. You are more seasoned, but it doesn't mean you're old. And I think that we need to get rid of the stereotype, like you said, that they all don't know how to use an emoji or they need help to make a joke. Like, they have lived lives. They have stories to tell. And when there is a person in the circle who usually is like 50 and above, they usually are a lot more fun. They like have more fun interactions and things because they actually have experiences in lives and, you know, interactions to like input, and they don't insert all the, I don't know anything, young people. Tell me everything, young people. Tell me. And I'm like, that is not true. It is true that there's things with advances in technology and stuff that different people have to know and learn, but not everything, you know? And so it's just that's the only thing. I think independently, Scott could have been a great, fun person to have on, or independently, Nan looks like she would have a lot of fun. But Scott playing Nan, I need him to like tap into a little bit more of the fun wild side.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that one. And our other new player is Natalia. She is a 30-year-old military policewoman, and she is playing her friend Felix. Felix is a paratrooper in the military as well. He is also not bad to look at. And that definitely comes up a lot over these next 2 episodes. That is for sure. So what do you think of Natalia playing her friend Felix in the circle?
I think this is a great catfish choice, right? There's good ones and there's bad ones. I think it was a great choice, especially in the way she explained it. Not that I'm a fan of people catfishing that often, but I think her explanation of how she was going to go about doing it and why she chose Felix was great. Like, hopefully people will like him because he's in the military. He's attractive. So that may or may not sway some of the ladies. And so far it seems to be working to get them on their side. But also, this is her world, right? She does this. She's in that world. She's always around guys. So it's an area where she knows. It's not like her catfishing something where if people challenge her on it, she's going to be like, oh, gosh, I don't know the answer to that. No, this is what she does. She just changed her sex.
Yeah.
But also, she is around all men all the time, and she mentioned so she's for the most part know their jokes. She knows what they would respond to certain things, and so she can banter and respond and do all the things she's going to need to do in the circle in order to complete, advance forward, complete the task. So I think she made, if you're going to catfish, I think she made a choice that was wise for her in order to be able to do it well. And I think she'll be okay. I don't think she's going to get caught out like some people would based on their choices for, how they're catfishing. Mm-hmm. So I'm not upset at her choice. I think it's a good one. It's working so far. People are loving Felix.
Right.
I don't know, how far to go in terms of getting him into trouble with the love triangle. Might be but right now it's working.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of like flirting as your gameplay strategy. So I'm hoping that Felix, aka Natalia, kind of builds more to what she's doing beyond that, because at some point there's only so much you can flirt about without like meeting this person, whatever it may be. Like, how are you going to benefit each other's game? And so I'm hoping that it develops. I do think there is a chance that it does. I think her insights of what we've seen so far have been very spot on. I do think that the biggest thing about being a catfish versus being a real person, and the easiest way to get called out, is catfish are very hesitant to share deep, meaningful, vulnerable things about them. I think that's the key to Felix, because already as like the military man, you have that whole like man in uniform thing. So, like you're rugged and have no emotions and you're so tough, blah, blah, blah. But if she can do that successfully, I think that she can catfish her way to the end.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that's why we see like Gemma struggling right now and Saeed doing well, because Saeed has given some stories, whether or not they're true, about like his kid sleeping in a drawer because he was so poor and couldn't afford a bed for him or whatever. Like, it still pulled at people's heartstrings, where Gemma's like, I'm a nurse.
Yeah. And then when she tried that joke, it did not go well.
Oh, yes. In the game. Yeah.
Well, you're not opening up.
We will definitely get to that. So we get the news feed, and Orange Tally has left a message, and the reaction to Yolanda being Orange Tally was pretty good. Anything that stood out to you from that?
No, I think it was just funny that everybody was just kind of like, oh man, you like blew it again. Like, It's kind of the same as original Tally's reaction when they all found out. Like, they're kind of like, oh, we got you again. Like, which was kind of, sad at the same time as funny. But yeah, so I feel like it solidified Tally again, because I think whether or not it was true, we know it's true, but they don't. I think they all from that are like, Tally must be real.
Right.
Because they still don't know exactly why or how Yolanda got to choose Tally, or why that was who was chosen. Mm-hmm. So I think in their minds, they're like, oh, it was somebody who was real, since she was being fake. Tally must be real. So that just really, I think, bolstered Tally's position as being not a catfish.
Yeah, I agree with you on that 100%. I also think some interesting things that came from that is like Vithin being able to make the joke that like the same person fooled me twice. Like, I'm not good at this. Kind of being able to, because I think he comes across as like this nerdy guy who is very calculated and processes things, that to be able to kind of downplay, or not downplay, actually, like play up, like, yeah, she got me twice, like I must be awful at this. I think it kind of like lowers his threat level a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we got Billy and Vithin both apologizing. Tally was like, it's fine, I get it, like it's part of the game, it's cool. And Saeed's out here being like, Tally is accepting these apologies because it's gameplay. What do you think of Hashu, aka Saeed, just as a player, as a catfish, like his insights? What's your opinion on him?
I don't necessarily think that Saeed is going to win. I feel like some people are on to him, but playing it up because they're like, we need to like keep him on their side a little bit. But his insight, I think he is reading people pretty well. I think for the most part, he's kind of reading the circle. But I think his obsession with Manrika is going to get him in trouble, because I think it's going to distract him from like paying attention to like who else is connecting and what else is really happening in terms of the bonds and where the votes are. So I feel like that's what's going to get him in trouble, because I think in general he has a good read on some of these people, but he's now becoming more and more obsessed with Manrika, and I think that's going to really like mess up what he started out as, which is having good reads.
I mean, I personally don't blame him. I am also obsessed with Manrika, so
I figured that out.
I might have tweeted about it earlier today when I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning to watch this episode to make sure that I would finish in time before we had to podcast about it, because I'm a responsible adult and follow through on my obligations.
There you go. And I had not seen this the episode 6 yet when I saw your tweet. So after episode 6, I was like, okay, I like her better, but still disagree. But I still like her better.
All right. While we're on the topic, why? Why are you anti Manrika?
So I don't dislike her. I've always liked her. So just so you know, I don't dislike her, but I don't necessarily think I want to see her on every other reality show. This one is for her. She can stop here, because she's too much for me. Girl never sits down. The best part of her was in episode 6 when she was telling about her real self, about her family. I felt like that was when she was being real. And then she actually sat down, because her real self sat down, and she was calmer. She wasn't over the top. She wasn't, oh my God. Every other moment on this show, I feel like, even though she's not screaming at me, I feel like she's standing and screaming. And I'm just like, Manrika, just calm down, sit down, just chill out a little bit. And it's okay every once in a while to have like a moment where you're up there, but she's on 10 every time, and I just can't handle it. But she's fun. She's entertainment. I mean, I don't just like, we need that. I need to watch something. Girl is fun, but I need her to calm down sometimes. But that moment where she was talking about her family, like, that's the best moment. I loved it. That's what I want to see. I'm like, I want to see both sides. I want to see the fun part, but I want to see more of who she really is, and not just her putting on the show for the show. Like, she's on, I feel like, too thick sometimes. And that's what bothers me. I'm like, I feel like she has a great personality and seems like she could be a great person underneath, but she's not showing it.
See, that's why I think it would be interesting to see her on a show like Survivor, because I do think that part of what she's doing is to be entertaining, because she only has herself to talk to in person, versus like if she had to have those in-person conversations. I think that we do probably get more of the simmered down Manrika, except maybe when she's like with a tally where she can be a 10 out of 10. I personally feel the way you do about Tally. I think that she is like, she screeches sometimes. I'm just like, oh, I'm wearing headphones. Like, can we not? Where I think, because like I get what you're saying about how she just like is on a high level a lot. I think because I appreciate like her sense of humor, I think is hilarious. You can tell that even though she is a lot, she is thinking about what she's doing. Like, she's playing this well. So I appreciate, I want to see her in other places where I do think she's great for the show. However, I think she could excel at a show like Survivor as well.
It'd be interesting to see her in a different setting. Now, I'll give you that. I don't know if I'd want to see her in all those settings, but in one other setting, to see what that would look like in like an in-person setting, that would be interesting, but not all.
Manrika, if you want to come play like a mini with me or something, hit me up. My Twitter is right there on the screen, so I'll be your ally.
Or the mini setting would be fire, because that girl will go to town, I can imagine.
Yeah, I think she would. I appreciate what she's brought to the circle. I was talking to someone else online. I do think that she's probably, at least as of right now, like, if not the best, one of the best players we've seen out of any of the US or UK seasons so far.
Really good. She reminds me of Georgina, who, by the way, is my favorite player of all the Circle seasons. So when she first started, I was like, oh, Manrika might be another Georgina. But then she never sat down. I was like, okay, girl, now you got to take it down a notch. And I feel like they're going to come for her because of that. Like, Georgina knew when to pull back and not always be the target. They know that Manrika is leading things. So that, I think, is going to like make her a target at some point.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. I think that she might be hitting that like peak of popularity too soon.
Yeah.
She needs to be under the radar a little bit. I had to look up Georgina now that I remember. And now that I've seen her, I remember who you're talking about. Yeah, I liked Georgina a lot too. Although that's my middle name. So I was always a fan of her because no one ever has my middle name as their first name. So
she is like, she's my favorite of all. Like she was, oh my God, she was the best. She is the best.
Yeah, she was good. I definitely agree with you. So after that circle chat of like the apologies and OG Tally is OG Tally, we get 2 new people entering the circle, and we see everybody else's reactions to their profile. And the general consensus about Felix is like, okay, he's an army guy, he's single, he's good looking, and he likes the outdoors. And then about Dorothy, I thought Billy was hilarious. He was like, I asked for eye candy circle, you provided it. Oh, Billy. Oh, Billy. And Saeed, aka Hashu, is worried that she might be able to catch him out on some of like the age stuff, which I think is an interesting insight to have, and it shows that he is thinking about it.
Yeah.
I don't think that any of their insight was revolutionary or anything really expanded on. So we'll just keep on cruising to the circle chat where they get introduced.
Yeah.
I wrote down basically they talked about what they had in their profiles. I didn't think that they did anything great to expand off of what they wrote in their bio. What did you think of the introductory circle chat with Felix and Nan?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty generic. I think obviously it's always like the people trying to like kind of suck up, kind of get people on their side, so to speak. And you definitely saw that quickly, especially with Felix. I felt like where it was kind of like, you know, the inner monologues and stuff where it was like, oh, okay, this is what he does, this is what he looks like. I gotta get him on side. And then also with Nan, but it was interesting too that there wasn't like a conversation or a side chat that went on about making them targets. Like I thought that would happen, like, you know, that's happened in past seasons.
Yeah.
But it really we didn't have that.
So I do wonder if they, like, at this point, I'm assuming all the people who are in the circle watched at least one season beforehand, know that when you come in new that you're immune, that maybe that's the reason why. I could understand that at least.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really, like, I can understand trying to suss them out, but you can't block them till the next blocking, and who knows what's going to happen between now and then anyway. So I can see why there wasn't the side conversation. But we do transition to a conversation with Tally and Manrika.
Yeah.
And it immediately Tally's like, I don't think Dot is real. And Manrika agrees. Tally says that she works with these types of people at her job. She knows old people. So they're like, let's invite Dot to the chat, which I wasn't expecting. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah. Well, this people want to like suss her out and like be like, you know, like see if they can like break her.
Mm-hmm. So the conversation was, you know, pretty informal. No, nothing like major. I think that Nan was starting to get Tally on her side. And then I think she was getting Enrica as well until she drops that she worked at the Ministry of Defense, which I have a couple of things. First of all, is that not out of Harry Potter? Like, when she said that, I'm like,
did you pull this out of the book?
Yeah, I was like, is Nan a witch? Like, what's her house? Is she a Hufflepuff? Gryffindor? Like, come on, Nan.
Oh my God.
So when she said that, I literally wrote in my notes, which sounds like some Harry Potter shit. So it was Manrika who was like, that's the perfect job to say as a catfish because no one at the Ministry of Defense can talk about what they do as their job. Which I would have never, if someone was like, yeah, I was a CIA agent, I'd be like, that's sick. And I would just leave it at that. And so for Manrika to like connect those, good on her. I don't know if I would have gotten there. Maybe I would if I'm alone in an apartment building for 3 weeks, but
that's the thing. Like there's certain things like where even people work at the CIA, I know like some ways you get that job. I would ask some questions about how to get the job. You can't talk about what you do. There's certain things about the application progress that I'd be like, oh yeah, what did you know, like I would start asking some questions. But the same thing, it's like people know to say certain jobs so they can't get asked about it, which then, of course, is like red flag catfish.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's crazy because this actually was Nan's job in real life, but it is catfish. So it's like a double-edged sword there. But I thought that was funny that that's what caused Manrika to be like, nah, dog, that's a catfish. Like, we're out on her. And then Tally's like, oh my gosh, this is actually my circle grandma. She is 85. This is an 85-year-old woman talking to me right now. So Tally, who has a great read on the old people, slipping a little, and Manrika is just out in full force.
Yes. But Manrika is almost everybody in the circle except for Tally is a catfish. So
true. I would assume that as well, though, to be fair. I think she doesn't think Vithin's a catfish. I think she's pretty confident in Vithin.
Yeah, because, I mean, who would think he is the way he's playing it? Like, that would be, like, major.
That would be such a hard character to play. It would, I don't even know how I would go into that. You would really have to know someone. It would have to be like your best friend or like your brother or your sister who has that type of personality that like you've been so close to be able to pull that off. I couldn't.
Yeah, for sure.
Then we get Felix chatting Gemma, and they just flirt back and forth, and Gemma initiates having Felix's back. It doesn't really seem like a concrete alliance, but it's at least the formation of some sort of relationship there. Anything you took away from that you think is worth highlighting?
Yes, I just thought it was ironic. At one point, Gemma says something like, oh yeah, this is funny, we're flirting, but it's not like we'd ever actually, wait until we meet in person. It's not like there would ever be a chance of us being together. I'm like, oh, little do you know.
That's what
I'm like is both catfishing.
Yeah. It's bewildering to me that sometimes the catfish, and this happened on the celebrity season too, are just so like egocentric in the fact that like they're the only catfish. Like you have no idea who you're talking to. If you're a catfish, they are as likely to be a catfish. Then you're like, yeah, it's just like two dudes flirting with each other right now. It's like it could be. You're right. You also could not be. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That was just the funniest thing. So I was like, and Gemma, to me, the guy is a little arrogant. And so I really want him to be blocked.
See, I thought he was playing well at the beginning, but he hasn't elevated he's plateaued. Like he came in strong and has just stayed at that same level. But unfortunately, like if you're coming in strong and people are getting better, your strong is no longer strong. So I was high on him at the beginning, but he hasn't adapted to like the emotional needs of the circle and the people in it and like those desires for connections at like the vulnerability and emotional levels, in my opinion.
It's like we said about like we were talking about with Scott and Nan. It's like he came in with this stereotypical idea of like a story that would work.
Mm-hmm.
But he forgot to flesh it out. He's like, oh, I know. I'm going to play this young girl who's a nurse. And everybody's going to love this young girl who's a nurse. And he stopped there. He's like, oh, and she does yoga. Okay. I can like, because I do yoga. And so that works. But then he stopped there. It's like, he's like, I got the story. But he forgot that he needs to like have some background, some more. Like people are going to have to get to know you. Like he came in with his stereotype of like, people like this type of person. So that's it. And no, there's more to that. People are more than just a superficial thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give him credit that there are people in the world who their personality is their job and or like one hobby like CrossFit or something. But there's a reason that those people aren't on the circle because they're not interesting. And so like he's cast on the show because he is a dynamic character who is interesting to like hearing him talk and his like thoughts or whatever. I enjoy having him on my screen, but what he doesn't like translate that over to the character that he's playing. And so, yes, there are people who exist like that. I 100% agree. However, they're not on TV shows like this because they're not interesting. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
We then get Vithin chatting with Andy, and Vithin gets emotional here. He explains how he's never been popular, and he doesn't like addressing his feelings, which explains why he's so like calculated in his gameplay, because he doesn't want to factor in the emotional component of this game. And I felt like Andy was the perfect person for him to open up to. Like Andy handled it so well, which also just shows like why he is so popular within the circle. What did you think of this conversation? Did you side like did Vithan you with his story there?
Say it again.
Did Vithan get you with his story there? Did he tug at your emotional heartstrings?
So, because this was like one of the leader of the episodes and I was wondering, I'm like, what gets him to that point? And it still came on kind of quick. Like, even in the process of them talking, I was like, whoa, where did it come from? But it was definitely one that it didn't pull at me like hardcore, but I thought that it was sweet that relationship between Vithan and Andy was developing in a way that Vithan felt comfortable enough to share, and that it got him to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was kind of sweet. And that Andy, I thought received it well, right? Like, yeah. That was good.
I think part of the thing that it's easy for us to gloss over is the fact that these people are sitting in an apartment by themselves. And so their whole thought process is the game and like what's in their head, that I think it's so easy to like get emotional quickly, because it's also centered around what's going on in that moment. So I can understand like Vithan's jump to that. As someone who like, I won't say stoic, but like if I get emotional, I get emotional, but it takes a lot to get there. I could see myself being like Vithan in this house, where all of a sudden it's like I'm thinking about all these things that have happened, and the first chance I get to say it out loud, it's just like, here come the tears. Look me being a little bitch about it. Like, I hate myself right now for this, but I can't stop it.
Well, and I feel like, part of it is a little bit edited. So there might have been a little bit more that was like cut out, that like was still in there that maybe we missed in the lead up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think anytime that you are opening yourself up or being vulnerable and exposing yourself to feel the courage, because like part of it is, I think, him feeling the courage at the same time that he's talking about how, he wasn't popular. I think at the same time, the tears aren't all sad. I think some of the tears are him feeling like empowered by being able to know, but I'm telling you this as I'm sitting on national television.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's like that dual moment of like, this is my story, but I know that I'm telling it where everybody's watching me right now in this moment. I'm experiencing this, and the juxtaposition of being able to tell a story of, I was not popular, but I'm also here where everyone's watching me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not everyone, but I have this large group of people I know are now watching me. Even those people who maybe didn't want to talk to me, some of those people, or many of those people, are probably watching him on the circle. And that was probably all those, I can imagine anyway, having all of that flood through him at that moment. And so having some of the memories of the past being part of the sadness, but also the pride of, but I've overcome that, and this is where I am today, know, and that courage and that empowerment, if at all, maybe being all those emotions at once, like hit, And so even though it didn't hit like in the same way for us, if we're viewers, it's like for him, he's experienced all that over his lifetime, so it can hit,
And I also think that he hasn't exactly said this, but we know that him being Indian and like representing the Asian community on this show, like in his intro, he put this, like, if I win, this is historic, because I would be the first person of this descent to win any reality TV show in this country. And so I think that like that probably plays into it as well, as like having to represent a community in addition to all of the gameplay, all of the relationships, all of the stuff that's like changing about him like second by second in that house. I'm sure it's a lot of pressure for him. So like be able to watch that is really, really just like transformative in a way as a viewer, because it's something that I probably will never get to do. Although I did apply, so you can cast me, Circle. Like, I'm over here. Anyway, so
Yeah.
as
And
someone who is
that,
not
like, him being there and knowing that he's not the only one there.
right.
Like, as a minority, there is something to be said when you're in a community like that where you expect to be the only one, because so often you are the only one in a space. So when you go to a space where you think, when you prep yourself to be the only one, and you're like, I am not the only one representing this community, that also is like adds to it. You know, you're like, I don't have to be the only one. I shouldn't have to be the only one. And I'm so happy I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that for someone who came in so like rigid and like, I'm going to use math to win this, to see him like have to expand, I think part of it is voluntarily and part of it's involuntarily, to like recognize how his emotions are affecting him and how it's affecting the game. It's just like, it's a really cool thing to get to watch that journey.
Yeah.
So now that we've had our like feel good moment of the episode, right? We get into a game called Hoedown. And well, it's more of an event called Hoedown. They have a Hoedown. Manrika just killing me. She's like, "You've got a hoe here, ready for the Hoedown." I was like, classic. I expected that out of you. Way to deliver, Manrika.
Yeah.
And they danced for a bit, and then they played a kinder version of Fuck, Marry, Kill, which always a great game to play in groups. Always. And I think the important thing that came out of that, though, is Felix quickly realized that there are some relationships here that he's at a big disadvantage that from coming in late, that he needs to figure out a way to navigate them.
Yeah.
So his choice in how to navigate them is to chat with Manrika, the queen of relationships.
Everybody wants to be with the queen. They see it at the top, which is what I think why it's going to get her in trouble.
They want to have those royal babies. They want to make some princes and princesses. Yes. So they basically just flirt a lot back and forth in their conversation. And my favorite part of it is when Manrika is kind of like hyping herself up, and she's like, I am the alpha female of this group. Like, I need to do this. I'm going to like, I feel like she probably is the hype girl of her friend group, but she has to be the hype girl for her in this situation. And I just loved it. Like, I love a boss ass bitch. Bring me more of them in my life.
Well, and then I also wondered, I mean, I don't know, but if Natalia would have liked to hang with Manrika, whether or not she was Felix, right? She would have been attracted to her personality and just would have been like, hey girl, what's up? Let's chat. I always wonder about that when there's a catfish, like the people that they end up trying to navigate and connect with, would they still connect with those people?
Do you think that they would? Because I have an opinion on that.
It's hard to say. Like with them, it's harder to say. I don't know. What is your opinion?
So my gut instinct is no, and here's why. I think by a certain age as a woman, you have to you have to know how to be friends with other women. And coming into this being like, I'm constantly surrounded by guys, sometimes that type of woman is difficult to be friends with as another woman. And I could see her maybe not being threatened, but it's alpha, and sometimes alphas click and other times they don't. And I could see them just butting heads. And I think it's because I think Manrika is the type of alpha who wants to surround herself with other like strong women. And I could see Natalia being like, because I'm a strong woman, I can hang with the men. And sometimes those two just miss each other.
That's true. I think Natalia is a little bit more mature though, so I think that's what would balance it. Right. I definitely think that could clash because I think Natalia's surrounded by guys not because she chooses that as her friend groups. I think that's true when it's like, I only hang with guys because it's my friend group.
Yeah.
As opposed to she's surrounded by guys because of the occupation.
Yeah. I just don't know, like
different categories. I feel like it doesn't mean that she's not around women. I think she's just surrounded by guys through occupation.
Yeah.
And so we don't know that she's not around women, but I think her maturity, what appears to be her maturity level, I think could balance some of that Manrika energy, as I like to call it, where I think they possibly could blend. But you never know. You just never know.
Yeah, and I wonder because it's not like she's just a policewoman, she's a military policewoman. And so sometimes that's a more intense environment because you're living on like a base with these people, like your social life is also these people. So I do wonder, no, but I do think you bring up a good point that like, is it occupational or is it like all encompassing that she has to be one of the guys? Like I grew up in a family of all boys and it really took in like my group of friends in high school is all boys. It really took until like my early 20s to like understand how to be friends with women. And so I I understand someone like Natalia where because that's your environment, you can like have difficulties in that. But we don't know. Maybe I'll tweet at her and just be like, hey, got any girlfriends you want to tell me about? Like not, just wondering. I tried to find Enrica on Twitter and couldn't. I was going to follow her and be like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast?
And for me, it's so funny because as a sports loving, sports playing athlete growing up, I was that person who was friends with guys growing up through like the primary school years, and I never thought of it as learning how to be friends with women. But yeah, I think you do. Eventually, that's what you're doing. You get through those bumps and hurdles of learning how to be friends with both men and women. But I still am. Like I have some things that I do with primarily just men. Like a lot of my sports pools, those things.
Yeah.
But, I do both because I'm also the shopaholic. But so I think there's this dual thing. So we got to find out about her. We got to find out if Felix can navigate both worlds.
Yeah. And I think
navigating two worlds.
And in order for Felix to be successful in this game, they're going to have to do more than just flirt with Manrika. They're going to have to create bonds with the Andys, the Saids, the Vithans, and that's going to take an entirely different skill set than just being like, come shower with me.
Yes, which will be interesting to see. Which also will show us if they can, because then if all they know is base life, then that might be why they struggle with some of the other guys. Right? That's going to be the tell, and that's going to let us know if that's all they know is base life.
I'm interested to see how the Felix catfish plays out because I do think there is a low floor and a very high ceiling. Like I think anything can happen with Felix. It really depends on how these next couple of days go. So we get to the end of the episode. So we just spent 52 minutes talking about one episode, by the way. To be fair, we touched on some episode 6 stuff and we like really jumped into some characters. So I'm all about it. But we got to the end of episode. Oh, I said episode 4. It's actually episode 6, whatever. So next episode, they're still at the hoedown and they play a game called Gram Slam. So everyone has to put their best party picture in the circle chat.
Oh, and this got really good.
Yes, this is where shit got shady.
Yes, this is my favorite part of the circle when they start doing the anonymous stuff. Yes, this is when the circle gets real.
So once the picture is put up, people get to anonymously comment on each photo. So I only took some brief notes so we can dive into it deeper. Here's what I wrote down. Saeed catches some catfish shade. That was hard to say.
Yeah.
So does Billy. And then Manrika just like she very much pops off about Felix in a very hormonal way. And there's something that I'll bring up once we talk about some other pictures. But so for you, like this is your favorite part. What was there a certain person who was like providing some solid shade? Was there a certain picture that created some drama that you want to talk about? Because I think there's a couple that are worth pointing out, but specifically Felix.
So I think I love the whole thing. Okay, let me just go there. It was interesting when Gemma got caught shade and when Billy caught shade, because I think they both were surprised.
Yeah.
I think some people, like Saeed, I think knows that some people maybe are like wondering about him. Like not everybody is, but I don't. Saeed is, because again, he's got good reads. He's not surprised that one or two people are probably like, right, suspect of him. So I think that he called a little shade wasn't as shocking to him, right? Even if he was playing it up. I think Billy and Gemma were like, wait, what? People
Yeah.
for us? What? I love those moments because I don't think they were ready for that shade. And especially Gemma, because I think Gemma, again, is arrogant. Gemma thought she had everybody fooled. Oh, my goodness. Especially because Gemma laughed at Billy, I think, right? Billy went before Gemma. Yeah. Jimmy laughed and thought it was also funny that people thought Billy was a catfish. And then when it was Gemma's turn, yes. So that stuck out more to me than the Felix flirting and all that, because that was all Manrika. The Billy Gemma thing, yes, that was good. That's the circle I love. Even though I love Billy, clearly he's not a catfish, and I don't want him to go.
Yeah.
Just that whole part of it though, which is hilarious.
So what I thought was the best part of it was the gameplay that came in on Felix's picture. When Manrika was sending anonymous messages as two different women, that was genius. And then with Vithin pretending to be a woman as well, I was like, wow, this is good. Like, this is solid. And it completely fucked up Felix because he was like, oh, is that Gemma? Oh my God, now I have to be like Team Manrika 100% because Gemma's kind of calling me out here. Like, Gemma lost a number because of that exchange, because of Manrika talking to Manrika and Vithin chiming in.
And then even Tally, because Tally was like, wait, Felix ain't flirting with me.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that whole thing did mess up Felix's whole game.
Yeah, Felix was just like, whoa. Okay, who, what, where? Like, Felix wasn't ready for that storm at all.
No, that exposed so much. I loved it.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of it. And I think, like, as awesome as what I almost said Manrika, I just combined Vithin and Manrika to be Manrika. As much as like Manrika making back-to-back comments as different people, I think Vithin's comment was like top gameplay in that situation, because I think that's what threw the wrench into it, because you're counting the women in the circle and you're like, wait a second, so is that Tally, Gemma, and Manrika? Like, did he flirt with Dot already? Like, is Nan getting some? Like, what's going on?
Right.
So, afterwards we get a chat with Saeed and Andy called Catfish Hunters, because again, I think Gemma has to keep playing this up. Otherwise, Gemma's days are numbered. She doesn't have much else to like latch on to. So Gemma straight up says, I want to align the three of us. Andy wants Dot to be true, but doesn't believe that she is. It's the same way he feels about Saeed. And Saeed thinks, I just wrote Saeed thinks possibly Dot. Maybe Dot might be real, might be catfish. My notes incomplete. Great job, Care. But Andy thinks Billy is real. So we get some information out of that. Anything in particular that stands out from their original Catfish Hunters conversation? Because we have a second one coming up that is way better than this one.
Not really. I mean, it was just kind of like whatever, Yeah, like their conversation to me was just whatever. It wasn't as interesting to me. Partly because Andy, I think, is nice and it's good for him. I feel like he's middle of the pack, and right now that's where you want to be. But he gets lost. I feel like Andy gets lost in the shuffle a lot. But for now, that's good because he's not Manrika, who, again, I think is making herself a target. But he's also not at the bottom. And so right now, I don't think he's going to get blocked unless it's something fishy weird with the vote. I think he's just sliding by. Enough people like him, though. He's got his pair. He's got his connection. I think he's just living in the middle. And so his conversations never interested me all that much. And Gemma, I think, needs to go. Saeed is just playing it up. And so, their conversations to me are just like,
I think being in the middle right now is a perfect place because if you peak too soon, you become a target. Like, I think that Andy is living in a comfortable. I mean, he was influencer last time, though, to be fair. So he definitely has some popularity to him.
But that was because everybody just wanted Gemma and who was it that was up there with her, Billy, to be at the bottom?
Yeah.
So,
Plus,
yeah,
both tallies weren't involved in the rankings either, which threw things off a little bit.
Yeah. But
So
they got.
oh, go ahead.
I said, but they got to rank. So it just like messed the whole thing up.
Yeah. So our next chat is Saeed chatting with Dot, and they like start flirting a little bit, which was so weird.
No.
Like Dot saying she wants to take naps with Saeed, and Saeed like, my wife.
No.
Really the only thing I took from this besides like the awkward flirting is Saeed reading Dot's messages in like an old woman voice is hilarious to me. He kills me. Like, I know that his job is basically like content creation on YouTube, playing different characters. But it adds such a flair to the circle for me. I love it.
Yeah, he's funny. I wish he would have played himself. I feel like he's got such a good personality. Again, it's like Scott. I wish he would have played himself.
Mm-hmm. I wish he would play himself, but I think so far he's doing a good job as Saeed. Like, he's the best catfish by a landslide.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a better job than some of the others.
Mm-hmm. So then Dot. Oh, go ahead.
He's doing a good job.
Dot opens Nana chat with Manrika and Gemma. Oh, Tally and Gemma. I wrote Manrika, and Gemma, which I'm probably just putting Manrika and Tally as the same person, or it's just showing my obsession with Manrika. It could be both. And that, I mean, we already know that Manrika and Tally are a pair, but it really showed it to Nan very early on, feeling like the outsider, as well as Gemma. I do think that Manrika realized this, though, and worked on bringing Gemma back in and making Gemma feel safe. What do you think of this little girls' chat that they had?
I feel like they were, like, I feel like Nan was trying to, like, bond with them, and then they did go off in their little, like, back and forth. And then I was like, you're just, like, completely, like, shutting out Nan. And then I think Nan caught that and reinserted herself again in the stereotypical, I don't know how to take shots. But, you know, Manrika was like, oh, yeah, we'll show you. Come on, Nan, whatever. But it was so fake. I was like, if I was in that chat, I wouldn't have believed any of it if I was Nan at all. And if I was the girls, I wouldn't have believed Nan. I felt like the whole thing was fake. I mean, obviously watching it, we know it was. But I didn't feel like any of it was genuine. It was so forced. And I would have felt so pushed out by the three of them, the way that Nan tried to initiate this whole thing. And then they all go off talking without her. Like, yeah, no, I did not appreciate that at all.
Yeah, I think that's a tough group chat to create. I do think that if you want to create relationships with Manrika and Tally at this point, you have to purposely exclude one of them from the group chat, because what's going to happen is one of them is going to have this opinion or perception of something, and they're going to share it with the other regardless, and they tend to agree. So use your resources wisely, and also to like create the one-on-ones versus being drowned out by two big personalities. I think going forward, hopefully, especially Nan learns that lesson from this, but I don't know if they will.
But even Gemma joined in with them a little bit more than Nan did, right? So
Yeah.
Nan was on the outside.
I do think that Gemma realized, though, quicker than Nan did, like, oh shoot, I am on the outside of this and need to, like, I have to get them in on my side, especially Manrika, because she's so powerful right now within the circle, within her relationships, where I think that like Nan is still picking up on just like how intense the relationships are and the connections of them. So I could see why it took Nan like the longest to figure that out.
Yeah, and I think it would have been different if Nan was in the house with them originally and started that chat like, hey girls, let's
Yeah.
all be together. But coming in as an addition, I think it's harder to try to do it as a big group as opposed to like do it one-on-one and build that in and try to like see where you can fit in. I think that's where your strategy has to change when you're coming in late versus if you're an original.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. So then the next chat we get is Manrika creating a group chat called Circle Siblings with Andy and Vithin. And so they are very transparent about the conversations that they're having with other players, which I think is really interesting. And Manrika says she's flirted with Felix, like Vithin and Andy kind of hype her up a bit. And Vithin has that realization like, oh, I haven't talked to the new players nearly as much as at least Manrika has. I need to get on that. So this conversation definitely was a little bit of a light bulb for Vithin. Yeah. And Andy realizes, or here's my opinion. If Andy realizes that Manrika and Vithin are real and Saeed's a catfish, if he can figure that out sooner rather than later, I could see him like bringing that three together and riding that three out, because I think the three of them bring like different qualities to this hopeful alliance. Like Vithin's got the calculated part, Manrika's got a bit of the social, a bit of the strategic, and Andy's so good at the connections and figuring out like who's real and who isn't, that I think the three of them together could run this game.
I think they could. I definitely think they had a good conversation. If anything, I think Vithin was thinking like I was, which is we don't need to talk to new people because we're going to vote them out once they're eligible. And he was surprised to see, like you said, that, oh, snap, people are actually engaging with them and talking to them. Oh, they're playing this game hard. I need to step it up. I think, and my thing is, I think Vithin was thinking along the lines of, aren't we just going to get rid of them? Wait, are they going to get preference over me? Like, I definitely think all that ran through his mind. Like, I think he was definitely surprised.
Yeah, I think that of the three people, Vithin benefited the most from this conversation, because I think it was a little bit of a kick in the butt that he needed. Two new people coming in, those are two more sets of ratings that have to happen, and those ratings can greatly affect you. So just ignoring them is not the best gameplay.
Yeah, and just having your one best buddy who can rate you well is nice, but that's not the only rating that is going to matter.
Right. So we then get into a game called Sharing is Caring, and what's going to happen is the circle is going to ask the questions, and then Dot and Felix are going to choose their favorite answers. So we don't know the specifics of this game yet until we get into it, but the first question was, what's the first thing you would do with £1,000? Felix has to pick the favorite answer, and he picks Saeed's answer. So Saeed said that he would help people out in Bangladesh with the money. He wants to bring it back to where he's from and benefit the community that he grew up in. So that really got to Felix. Felix picked that answer. And so Saeed finds out he gets to pick a partner or another player to get a spa treatment with, and he picks Andy. Now these two are out of the game. So this is where it's like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
There's something to this. So next we get, what are you most proud of? And Manrika gives the answer of her dad, who was an alcoholic, is now sober, and now uses like his time and money to help other people who are facing addiction. So Dot picks that. She gets to share afternoon tea with someone. She obviously picks Tally. So the last three people are Vithin, Billy, and Gemma. So the question is, who do you admire the most? Gemma gives some bullshit answer like, oh, I admire Dot and Felix because they're new and they have to play it. Like, shut up. And then Billy says Michael Jordan, which might have landed well here in Chicago with the two of us, but not as well over in the UK. People are like, goat. What's a goat? Like, why is he calling Michael Jordan a goat? Oh, did they call him Billy the Kid? I was cracking up at that.
Oh, funny. He was like, Billy Goat. I was like, oh,
and Vithan said his mom because of just the difficulty she faced growing up. And so Felix picked that answer. Vithan picks Billy. So Gemma, odd one out. That's the rundown of that game. What anything of importance that you brought or you take from how all that went down?
Well, I thought it was interesting because it was the first question where what would you do with the money that kicked it off in terms of like, that's going to kick off like which way you go, right? Like, is it going to be serious? Are we doing serious answers, or are we doing kind of like middle of the road, like whatever answers? And who kicked it off first with the serious answer? Was it Saeed? I don't think it was. Who gave the serious answer first?
I don't remember. I was gonna write them all down, but then
I know. I'm trying to remember. I think it was whoever it was like the first person who answered was like kind of serious. And so I was like, wow, they kicked it off serious. And it might have been Vithan, but whoever was answered first was serious. And I was like, okay, so we're like being real with this. And it was like real from their, like they started real. And so it was real from that moment forward, minus that one answer by Gemma. Everybody was like very serious because they were like, oh, this is okay. We're going to give real answers.
Yeah.
And I don't think I missed it because I was listening for it. On the second one, like, what are you most proud of? Billy was like, wow, I don't have anything to say compared to all of them. I've not lived that long or something like that. But then they never actually told us what he was most proud of. I kind of wanted to know what his actual answer was. I'm like,
I don't remember.
He didn't actually answer. I was waiting. And so I was kind of thrown that they didn't actually let us hear what his answer was, whatever it was. Just because, they seem to all be very thoughtful answers. So I like learning about the players in that way. So I really enjoyed this game. Again, I love the games. I love hearing about the players. I love seeing their reactions to each other. And what I missed is, and I don't remember if it was UK or US, but I think it might just be the US version where when they share things like that, sometimes people get to, you see the likes.
Right.
Even if somebody else is choosing, you still see other people's like likes and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like that. Even though most of it is just sucking up, so I guess it's not really relevant. But yeah, no, I already talked about Manrika sharing. She was calm. That was helpful. I really like Tally talking about her ADHD. She was first because that was what it was.
That was, I think, the thing that she's most proud of. I actually thought while you were talking, I think it was Andy. Andy said that he would invest in his business and there was something else. He went first.
Oh, that's right. You're right. But yeah, I like Tally talking about overcoming her ADHD, going through school, her misconceptions about what it meant compared to what she understands it to mean now, and even what people thought about her and that perception. Because, mental health is just so important for all of us. Everybody in the world has mental health. And then some of us just have mental health issues that go beyond just the natural state of being that require sometimes doctor's attention, and sometimes they require chemical attention as well in the form of medication. And it's always, I think, brave of somebody who's willing to speak to that and speak to their experience. And so I was very touched by her sharing that and her experience with that.
Yeah, and not to go like to special education certification on you here, but especially ADD and ADHD, the research done on them is primarily in boys. And so it tends to show itself differently in girls. And so when girls have ADD or ADHD, it tends to either be misdiagnosed or just undiagnosed until later on. So like when she said that as like as someone who had to like study this stuff, I was like, oh, that sounds exactly like a lot of women who find out that they have ADD or ADHD because it's so centralized. A lot of the research is centralized in boys. So I also thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I definitely agree with bringing that to light and getting to hear about it from someone who has it. Again, it's representation in different ways. So sure that there was quite a few girls watching this out in the UK live being like, oh, like, she's smart, she's funny, she has a great job, and she's on here, like, entertaining us, and she has ADHD too. Like, okay, cool. So, yeah, I appreciate it as well.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I think is worth bringing from that game is, like, we got to see pairs that caused people to draw lines in the sand. It caused people to pick their number one. I don't think that anything was surprising out of them, but it did expose it to everyone, which I think will have some ramifications coming up. I don't know that, but if I were to guess, I would say it does.
Absolutely. And we saw who the odd man out was.
Which transitions right into the next part pretty well. So there is a little bit of a chat with Manrika and Tally at their tea, and they talk about something being off about Gemma. But Gemma has to get a punishment for being the odd person out from this game. So Gemma gets a secret mission, but it's not a good secret mission. This is not a secret mission that you want. Gemma becomes I just circled out for a second. Gemma becomes the assassin. She has to pick a target, and that target has to get blocked at the next blocking. If they don't, Gemma goes home. So they have to pick who they think is most likely to get blocked instead of them. So Gemma picks Billy. What do you think about this choice, despite the fact that you love Billy?
I know, I love Billy. So I was not happy with Gemma's choice. I don't like Gemma, so clearly
you're like, Gemma, pick yourself. Pick yourself, Gemma.
But no, I strategically, I understood it at, because of the whole catfishing thing earlier. So I was like, okay, I kind of get the reasoning behind it. I thought that Gemma might go a different route a little bit. I don't know who. Well, I do know who, but I was just like, oh, I would I was trying to process through who would I pick, and I was like, not Billy. Why is Gemma picking Billy? I'm like, go with somebody else. But I'm like, in theory, Billy is probably the option to go with, because you can't. So new people, I think, are still immune because there hasn't been a blocking since they entered. So I was like, well, you can't go with the new people. I don't think Vithin's going. If anything, it would be Andy. But like I said, he's middle of the road. I think that's a harder sell based on everything we've seen with everything. It'd be hard to go after Manrika at the moment. I definitely think Manrika's a target, but that's not going to be an obvious block right away. And Tally's already taken a beating. Let's give her a 1 round break. So it's yeah, okay, Billy. But I don't think Gemma's going to win regardless of who she chooses. So
right. I do think that a logical reason for picking Billy is they've been together in the rankings the whole time. They were they were numbers 1 and 2, and they dropped to the bottom together. So that person has been most equal to them, at least in the rankings, that if you can just edge out Billy in 1 or 2 people's, then that might benefit her a bit. So I can understand it approaching it from that way. But the breakdown of you, what you said and what Gemma said as they were picking, it really did seem this was the best choice for Gemma, even though it's not a choice that we would want because we both enjoy Billy.
Yeah. And I do think Gemma's going to end up being the one that's blocked.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, but I also agree with you. So we get Gemma having a group chat with Saeed and Andy, back to the catfish hunters, and Gemma comes in hot.
Oh my
gosh. Okay, I salute your attempt at gameplay. However, I don't think this was well thought out. So let's talk about what happened, and then we can say why. So Gemma comes in, says, I just talked to Billy, and I think Billy's a catfish. Billy says he loves trainers, and he loves football. Well, he doesn't know anything about football. I asked him a couple questions. He doesn't even know who won the last World Cup. He's trying to get Saeed and Andy to believe Billy's a catfish because he knows, especially Andy, is so set on getting catfish out. So he was the seed is set on this, which I personally think he came in with like a full air raid fertilizing system. I don't think he was setting any seeds. He came on fire with that. But we get like 2 different reactions. Saeed was like, dude, Gemma can turn on me in any minute if they're going to do this. Yes. And Andy's like, watch out, Billy. We're coming for you.
Well, because I think Andy already was like, he's one of the people who thinks Billy is a catfish.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't help. But also, again, Saeed has the better reads. Mm-hmm. And Saeed's like, where'd you come from with that? Who are you? That sketch. And also, when are you into football, Gemma? Like, Gemma, you haven't all of a sudden been this huge like World Cup fan and all this. So like, why do you have all this knowledge that you're like decided to go test Billy out on it? Like, where'd that come from? And like, he was like in the chat, like, so did you try to like get to know Billy at all? Were you like talking to Billy, or did you just go in for the kill? Like, where did this World Cup conversation come from?
Yeah.
You know, because that is a weird thing to be like, so opened up the chat and was just like, hey, you know who won the World Cup? Because that's kind of weird. If you already know the answer, why did that just come up out of the blue? And yeah, no, like I would call bull on that too, especially for it being from Gemma. Someone hasn't talked about like having that as a frame of reference. Not that women can't know that, but like you don't have a frame of reference. It came out of the blue, and you didn't say you guys were talking and having this long conversation about get to know you. It was just like boom, and then all of a sudden you like say that like he got off the call. Like, yeah, no, Saeed saw right through that. Like again, because Saeed has some good reads, Andy not so much, but Saeed has good reads.
It's also somewhat unbelievable in the fact of, in the last World Cup, England made it far. So England was very in tune with what was going on in the World Cup. There's no one who didn't know in England who won the last World Cup. You know what I mean? Because they made it far. They know that France won. So I think that that's like such a preposterous lie to tell, because it's also very easy to go and have a conversation with Billy and get him to like, and ask him how this happened. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it was just, if you're going to tell this lie, there has to be a better way of doing it. I don't know what I would have done off the top of my head, to be honest, but that's not it. That wouldn't be my game plan in the slightest.
And remind me, did Billy ever say he was a football aficionado? Like, yeah,
him and Tally talked about it. He's a West Ham fan. Oh, okay. She's a Brighton fan. Like, he's into soccer. He isn't lying about it, but
I didn't remember. Yeah, I didn't remember that. But yeah, I'm like, so yeah, it just no.
As I have a picture on my phone of me with like 4 or 5 of my British friends from camp. We were on a day off together, and we specifically picked this day off because England was playing in like one of the later games in the World Cup. So like everyone in that country knows what happened. So for Gemma to just come out swinging with that, man, I was like, stop it. Stop it right now. Like, this isn't it. You've messed up here. And I'm just hoping that like Saeed can shift it a bit, because I think that when Andy hears catfish, like eyes light up. It's another opportunity to show how good he is at it.
Oh my gosh. And that's Andy's. Oh my, I really think. Like, that's what's going to get him in trouble.
I agree with you. Well, that is where the episode ends. So, I guess some closing questions for you is, if you had to pick from the players in the circle right now, who is your favorite and who do you think is going to win?
Ooh, okay. Favorite might be Vitham. I also think he's going to win.
Oh, okay. All right. Double dipping on that fan favorite winner. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think he's got that sympathy thing going, where I think he'll stay up in the ratings. I don't think they're going to rate him first. I don't think he has the tight connections in that way. But I also think that even if he's towards the bottom, I don't think people are trying to block him.
Yeah, I don't think people see him as a threat yet.
Yeah.
And I don't think that anyone thinks he's a catfish, so he gets to like avoid that narrative for being blocked. No, I could see him. It's kind of like with the UK season, the last UK season, Patty came in and won, and I'm not saying he won because of the sympathy card, but because there was also that like late game alliance that formed and kind of like ran the ratings. But I do think that it helped, and I think that Villain has some of that sympathy going for him as well.
Well, and I think it's one of those things where like people can rate at the end, if like when depending on how many they do, if there's like 4 left and they have to rate each other 4 or 5.
Yes, right? Final 5.
There's like the strategic rating or the like real like if it's not me, I'd rather this person win.
Yeah.
I think the only people who would do that is Manrika and Tally.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna rate each other 1.
Yeah.
I think other people are gonna be strategic. They're going to put Manrika at the bottom. They're going to put Tally at the bottom because they're going to assume Manrika has rated her 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to look at the other pairs and know that Andy and Saeed are a pair. Billy by this time is going to be gone. The new people I think are going to be gone, or maybe Felix might sneak through.
Yeah.
But I think because of that, I think Vitham's partner is going to be gone. And because of that, they're not going to see him as much of a threat.
Yeah.
Like worry about rating him as low. And because of that, everybody's going to give him a higher rating, thinking that, oh, he's got nobody else giving him a higher rating. And lo and behold, he's going to be the one with the highest rating, which is why I say he's going to win. Not because I think everybody's purposely wanting him to win, but because of the way that people try to get strategic with their cross voting to get themselves up there. I think he will end up being up there.
Yeah, I can undisputedly see that happening. And that's like one of the best and one of the worst things about the circle is that once you get to that final 5, there like you can have strategy, but you don't know everyone else's strategy. And so your strategy is only as impactful as like what everyone else does. So you can rate with your heart, you could rate it randomly, you can rate strategically. I think that's a big reason why like Lady Leisha won the celebrity one is because people ranked strategically. And so, yeah, no, I could definitely see Vithan, but I could also I think Vithan can win based off of a combination of playing well, not being too on the radar. And again, I think people believing right away that he's not a catfish helps him so much. No, I can definitely see that happening. I would be happy with a Vithan win. Really, the only person I wouldn't want to see win right now would be Gemma.
Yeah.
And honestly, Scott as Dot. I don't know. I don't really respect the coming in as an old person. I just think it's never going to work. Like, I think Saeed is like the oldest you can be.
No, that I don't mind. I don't mind him coming in as a Dot. I just want him to play Dot well.
Yeah. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah,
my dog is throwing my Crocs around the room, just throwing it out there. That's why I keep looking away. So thank you, Nitro, for nothing. But yeah, all right. Well, I can see a Vithan win. I can definitely see that happening. Well, we're at the end of our 2 episodes. We talked for about as long as the episodes air for.
Yeah, that's awesome. We talked through it all.
Well, I had a blast, and I'm hoping that you'll come back and join us. Well, did you see that the U.S. circle was just announced for? Yeah. So we've got more circle coming up. The challenge is coming up, which I know. Well, I mean, it's still on, but Challenge All Stars is when we're going to start covering it. So I know you're a big fan, and we'll hopefully see you more with the challenge and with the circle. Oh my God, my dog is hurting me. Nitro, stop. I am so sorry.
So I will definitely come back and give all of my comments and commentary.
And do you want to plug where people can follow you since you don't have it in your little name handle?
Oh, absolutely. And I can add it real quick, but well, no, I can't. But yeah, I'm at BCLove7 at Twitter.
All right. Well, follow Keisha there. Follow me on Twitter for updates on dumb things I do, like eat Peeps for dinner and all that stuff. So that wasn't even a lie either. But that is what we've got for these 2 episodes. I will be back with you on Saturday. I have a guest lined up that I just need to get approved, but let's just say it's not going to be pilot season. It's going to be circle season. And if you understand that reference, then it's someone to be excited about. So Again, Keisha, thank you for joining us. We are here again on behalf of Silent Podcast, where we're anything but silent. And except my dog definitely not silent. And we'll catch you on Saturday. And